Welcome to the Souls and Stardust podcast. I'm Mio.
And I'm Shannon.
We're two soul sisters navigating through our human experience on a journey towards healing. Join us for a candid and fun discussion on all things spiritual, soulful, intuitive, and magical.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again. Today we wanted to talk about different resources that Mio and I have used in our own spiritual journeys, whether to learn more or to understand ourselves better or just to point us in a direction that helped us further along on our path. And I know personally, as an energy healer and just somebody who walks this path every day, I get a lot of questions from friends and family and strangers on the internet about where do you learn this stuff? Where can I find this information? What authors do you trust? What websites do you go to? So what I have done is actually started compiling a list of things that have helped me along the way and that I often refer my clients to, or people who just in general are asking me they want to learn more, so I point them in a direction. So today we wanted to discuss with you a lot of those resources that have helped us in our own way forward. So I know Mio's got a list of things and I've got a list of things, and we're just going to walk through this and see how our stuff overlaps. And it's also going to be really interesting to see how they diverge as well. So that's going to bring you a lot of diversity in the type of information that we're hoping you guys will find useful.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited to talk about this today because when I started along my journey, you were basically the only person that I had that I could actually talk to. So you gave me a list of things to check out, but while also doing that, I started watching different like TV shows. When I started realizing that I had certain things that were coming up, and as I'm watching like the TV shows like the Tyler Henry and like Theresa Caputo and Monica the Medium and all that, I was relating to these people on a very like holy shit, like everything that they're describing that's happening to them during a reading, like I will experience and have these. So as I'm watching them, then I start going to YouTube and you find all these channels of like these interviewers and like people who are set out to find and record and tell other people's stories. It's not just someone sitting there and blabbing for an hour. They're like interviewing other people. And so I started to kind of get obsessed that way. And then I'm just going to start off with like, recently I'm more of an Audible kind of girl and less paper books, only because like, you know, when you're commuting and traveling and stuff, it's just easier to pop in your headphones and listen while I walk and listen while I'm going to the airport and stuff like that. So one of the authors that I came across is actually a TV journalist. She was out of Chicago, Jenniffer Weigel. And it's Jenniffer with 2 N's and 2 F's. So if you're looking her up, and she's got a podcast called Spiritual, Damnit. And then she's also got four books that I have listened to. And what I loved about her style is because she's a journalist, she tells it like she's reporting the news, or she tells it like an interview. And it's not just a bunch of how-to stuff. It's more her showcasing other people's stories.
So like their journey.
Yeah, but while also going through her own spiritual awakening, because one of her first books, I don't know the exact order, but one of the first books was Stay Tuned, Conversations with Dad from the Other Side. Her dad was also a journalist. And so while he was going through his, I don't know if it's cancer or something like that, he started going more towards spiritual healing and finding non-traditional doctors and Reiki healing and stuff like that. So she talks about her journey with that, from going into like a spiritual girl, and like how much that shifted. And then even after he passed, that she was getting signs from him after he passed. So it's like getting readings and stuff like that when I don't know, just the whole process. But my favorite one that she did was called Psychic Healers and Mediums. She goes on a road trip. She brings a friend. She has all these different psychics do readings and mediumship. And you see the different styles of mediumship come through, because everybody's different. Everyone's got their own way of how they scent spirit. And so it's really interesting just to hear how some people are go into trance, some people are physical, some people are evidential mediums. Um, so that one was absolutely fascinating to listen to. I'm Spiritual, Damnit. That's also multiple interviews with other psychics and mediums. There's even families like the Bodine family. I don't know if you've heard of them,
Mm.
and how like
Mhm.
every single one of the kids has different abilities, and they're older now, so they've been doing this and they've been doing thousands and thousands and thousands of readings for
Oh, that's
decades.
amazing.
So you hear how like oh, one of the sisters, Echo Bodine, she's got like her way of how
Mhm.
she does it, and then one of the brothers has his own way of how they do readings, but then how they grew up and developed their gifts, and um, the differences in personality and stuff like that. So that's super fascinating. That one you can actually go on iTunes podcast and look up "I'm Spiritual, Damn It" by Jenniffer Weigel, and that's one that I subscribe to because I love her voice too. Um, Super easy to listen to, and
Yeah, that helps a lot. Kind of like us, right?
totally, my radio voice is just amazing.
That's awesome. So was there that so that seems like that's a book and a podcast or a series of books that focuses on mediumship. Do you
Mhm.
have other ones that are of that like a similar topic area that have been game changers for you that you've read?
Yeah, so I would say that list is more so the list of like, ooh, people like me, and
Mhm.
resonating that way. There were a few other biographies that I read, like Between Two Worlds was Tyler Henry's biography, and that tells
Mhm.
his story of like how he saw his dead grandmother when he was like 10 or knew she was going to die, which is like similar to some of the stuff in my life when I knew people were going to die. Um,
Mhm.
and then there's More to Life Than This. That was the Theresa Caputo one. What's
Mhm.
crazy is as I'm reading these books, it's like I kept getting more flurries of activity in my life. So the more that
Yeah,
like,
like
yeah,
things
it was like
turning on.
yep, I would get way more signs and symbols just back to back when I was listening and reading these books. And then what's cool, I think it was the Theresa Caputo one. At the very end of the book, the I don't know if it was her editor or the person like writing it or whatever, but they were saying how during the process of producing the book that their spirituality started to take off because spirit started showing them signs and symbols and delivering
Mhm.
messages and all these other cool ways, and it's just really super fascinating because
Yeah,
that's what
it's
happened to me. So
yep. It's like spirit cracks your auric field wide open and then just
yeah.
downloads you with a bunch of stuff so that you can remember who you are,
Yeah,
right?
and then even after our first 2 episodes, I was getting feedback from people who were like, is this a sign? I said this, and then, like, next thing I know, this comes up." And people or strangers too, screenshot something like, "Oh my god, when you said it was 2:44 on the podcast, it was 9:44 my time." And when I was listening, and so it's like, that's how spirit works. That's how
Yep,
this happens. Oh, the one I said, "I'm gonna mention this first," I totally didn't mention first.
that's okay.
The one that I started at the very, very, very beginning was called Infinite Potential, and it's actually not specifically related to any kind of healer, psychics, or mediums. It's all about quantum physics. So it's kind
Mhm,
of sets the baseline of how scientifically it's all possible and how
mhm.
it all works on a scientific level down to the physics part of it and
Yep,
the
quantum
realms,
physics.
the realms and the dimensions. And that one is like he's like some Swedish guy too, like I don't know, some kind of doctor or scientist. Uh, Loth. Oh God, I'm gonna say his name wrong. It's like Lothar Schafer or something like that. Um, that Infinite Potential one's really good. And then there's another one that I'm also currently reading, and it's An End to Upside Down Thinking by Mark Gober. And I think
Mhm.
he's a finance guy. Um, and he talks all about the quantum physics stuff too, and how all of this stuff happens. And
As like around thought or intention and then the energy you put out there must be.
yeah, that one is Consciousness Creates All Material Reality.
Oh,
Biological
yep, quantum
processes,
physics.
yep, do not biological process. So it's talking about the consciousness not residing in the brain, the consciousness being
Mhm.
separate from the brain.
Yep.
So the friends that referred this book to me, like I've they know some of my story, and I've actually done reading for the wife and stuff like that. So they referred it to me. So I'm like, oh, let me listen to it, because then when she listened to our first episode about how me and you would do the testing, okay, now think of a,
Mhm.
I thought of a blue whale or whatever it was. Her and the husband have been doing their own practice exercises based off of like, because what the book was talking about of like
Oh, sure.
testing things out. So one would go to the kitchen and say, okay, like what am I looking at? And then she would see shapes for something, and it was like, oh, but he was looking at the stove or something. I forget what the whole story was, but it's just, it doesn't, it's that whole consciousness residing outside of the brain. And
Mhm.
when you can kind of get like that it's possible for this
Mhm.
realm and these things to happen, then that opens up a whole realm of possibilities. Because the minute your belief shifts to this is possible and this can happen, you stop being
Mhm.
so closed down to thinking that only things that can fit inside of your box of understanding are true. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep, absolutely.
So that one was a quantum physics one.
This is
Oh,
Audible.
Oh,
my my Audible just decided to turn on, which is so funny.
at least it wasn't like trashy
No.
romance.
No, it's actually I just had touched the screen, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, because what you're talking about, the quantum physics around consciousness not residing in the brain, and thought and intention and sending that energy across time and space to be picked up by another person. Bruce Lipton, in his book The Biology of Belief, talks a lot about how um, biologically we are capable of changing the way our cells thrive or not, based on what state of mind that we are in and what our thoughts are, what we're thinking about ourselves. So he is a biochemist, PhD, biochemist by training, who did all kinds of experiments in the lab or with living cells in petri dishes, and exposing those cells to negativity, negative thoughts, and positive thoughts. And he was able to show how cells would thrive or die based on the energy or the quality of energy, the frequency of what they were exposed to. And so in his book, The Biology of Belief, he goes into depth around the quantum physics of what happens at the biophysical level
Dude.
when your thoughts are focused on certain things. Like, if you want to heal your body, you tell your body, I am healing every day. If you don't want to feel good, then you're going to say things like, I am sick and tired. Like
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
words, your intention is very powerful. So that's why they call it spelling, right? Spelling, right? Your words are very powerful, and your intention is very powerful, because that's all energy as well. So from a biochemist perspective, he talks about how where we are in our mental state, our feeling state, how we can actually change the quality of our cells and our DNA in terms of health based on what we're thinking. So that was a really cool book. I listened to it on Audible, but I've recommended it to a ton of clients who are moving through very physical experiences of illness or things like that. So to get them to understand, like, you have to change your mindset if you really want to become healthy again.
Yeah.
And a couple of other books that really piggyback off of this idea of what happens to your body at the physical level when you change your mindset. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he is a popular name in the new, I guess you would call it the new age movement or the alternative health movement. He's a chiropractic doctor, but he actually has been spending a lot of time in the realm of meditation and mindset and how that affects our physical wellness. And so he wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And when you read that, he's talking all about mindset and how your thoughts create your state of being, and how those like states of being become hardwired into us at a very young age, because when we're little, it's like we're direct conduit for all kinds of information without the filters, right? So then we hardwire all this understanding about ourselves. So Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. And then he's also got another book that he wrote before that, but I haven't read that one, so I don't want to recommend it to anyone yet.
Okay.
He has a subsequent book called Becoming Supernatural, where he takes you through at a deeper level how to recreate your state of being through tapping into the quantum field during meditation, and basically basically rewriting your neural pathways and how you were hardwired so that you can change at the cellular level. You're basically recoding yourself through through meditation at the quantum level, and so that you can experience health at all levels, so physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Yeah. And then, because I know we were talking about this earlier too, or maybe it wasn't you, where a lot of the times people just assume that the body and the mind are separate beings. And so they treat them as such. And so when there are physical ailments, they treat it with just physical treatments.
Symptoms, yep.
Symptoms, pills. Some things obviously need surgery and do need medicines, but there's a lot of stuff that is emotional and spiritual that are tied into that, or that keep it feeding, keep it like a breeding ground of that can help or hurt your healing process.
I have a great book for that, by the way.
Of course you do.
Yes. And because as an energy healer, right, I look to, the emotions, what emotions are held in the body, what's the energy that's held in the body that's causing physical pain, discomfort, illness, all of that stuff. And for me, when I experience pain in my body, immediately I think, oh, okay, what am I holding on to that I need to let go of? Before I head to a doctor, that's what I ask myself. And so there's a book called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss.
That's on my list.
Yeah, MYSS.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that is, I wouldn't call it super in depth, end all be all. This is how it
was
works.
A very quick Audible read too. I want to say the book itself was maybe only a couple hours on Audible.
Yeah, I think it's 4 hours long. And she, what I would describe it as, she gives you a great introduction to how the spirit body works and how it overlays into the physical body. And then at each point, each of the chakra points in our body, what can occur there emotionally that will then manifest itself as disease if you're not clearing it the way that you really need to. And that most disease and illness can basically dissipate from the body if we address the emotions and the mental trauma that has been embedded there. So that's a fantastic introduction into how the emotional body, the spiritual body is so interwoven with our physical body wouldn't work without our spirit. It just wouldn't.
That's when you have your basically comatose. When the spirit has already checked out of the body, it's just it's a lifeless body.
Yep.
With basic functions, maybe there might be twitching, there might be energy still surging, but consciousness has checked out.
Yep. And so Anatomy of a Spirit is a great book. She's a medical intuitive and with a long history of doing readings and working with doctors, actually working with surgeons and doctors. Yeah, so it's great how she's been able to integrate her abilities with the medical field, although that's still quite rare, unfortunately. And then another book that goes into a lot more depth about the emotions that are held in the body and how it can cause disease is, Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anodia Judith. And that one oh my God, has blown my fucking mind, right? About how energy moves through the body and how things that are held in one place actually form this catalyst of negative feedback loops through the rest of the body. So potentially one event can mess you up in a number of different ways. So it really pays for us to honor the emotions that are inside our body and listening to our body so that we can actually clear that out and heal from the inside out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. I got, while you're looking that up, I got one of those, I got a massage, myofascial.
Yep.
Yes.
Myofascial release.
Myofascial release. And while he was working on me, because it's not deep pressure like a traditional massage at
Mm-hmm.
all. And I think this is why I really loved it, because I'm so sensitive to being like, I'm very ticklish, or it hurts if they're working too hard. So with the
Mm-hmm.
myofascial, I can tell when he was working on parts of me, like my neck and shoulders, because that's what I said. Like I just got done shooting a wedding, so it was just like so tense
Tight.
here from
Yeah.
carrying gear. But it's also the stress of the wedding day keeps me like
Mm-hmm.
this. And as he's like doing stuff, I can feel the energy surging down my body, much like when I've had acupuncture done, where I
Oh,
can
sure.
feel stuff realigning, and I can feel him like opening up the floodgates of the energy to
Mm-hmm.
flow again.
Mm-hmm.
And my body didn't feel like it was moving, but I told him, like, when we were done, like, dude, I could feel the energy start to open back up and go. He goes, yeah, I could see it, because when I was working on here, I could see down at the bottom of your leg starts twitching. And I'm like, oh, I didn't feel that at
Yeah.
all, but
Oh, so cool.
it's really cool. And I felt so much better after too.
Of course, because your channels are all opened up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your energy is able to flow. In the fascia in the body, it's like that connective tissue where it sends messages across the body to different organs.
So much sense.
Yeah. So like working with the fascia in the body, that's why part of the reason why people have like phantom sensations when they lose a limb or an organ, right? Because the fascia is trying to communicate with that part of the body and it's not there anymore.
But it just dawned on me too that my whole week has been a series of things being out of flow.
Oh.
My whole week of like things messing up my flow, things like getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So maybe you need more energy work, I guess, is what Spirit's saying to you, so your body can stay in
That
flow.
makes sense. Yeah, and Spirit likes to hit me over the head with signs.
All of us, right? That's how
So
Spirit gets our
yeah.
attention. So I'm going to share another one that was like an extreme game changer for me, especially when I first was waking up. Like I had those experiences with my guides, like peeking over me while I was sleeping, and the hooded figures that scared the crap out of me, right?
The cloaked figures.
Yes, the cloaked figures. And I just want to reiterate too that it scared me because I didn't know what that was. And it was not harmful once once it was made known to me that they were just trying to get my attention and that was the way they were going to do it, right? That's a sense of humor.
Yeah.
A lot of our guides work that way to get our attention or to seem more human and relatable. So after I had these specific awakening things happening to me, I was doing more research, and a big game-changing book for me, like it literally transformed how I thought about life and death. It's called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And I think Mio, you have listened to this.
I have listened to that. It wasn't on my list, but I think because I listened to like a free version on YouTube or something.
Oh,
I didn't pay for that one.
Yeah, it's on Audible.
Michael Newton.
Yep, it's on Audible. And that was one of the first books that I read when I was just waking up again to my intuitive abilities. And what he is he's a clinical psychiatrist who specialized in regression therapies to help people release trauma or phobias. And
yes.
What he found eventually is that he would regress people along their timeline, and then eventually they would go preconception, and they would start describing this place between lives. He calls it the life between lives.
Yep.
And over a series of 20 years or so, he had different case studies that would give him pieces of information about what this life between lives looks like and what you do there. And it just, I mean, when I read it, I was like, this is how it works.
Blew
right?
my mind. and what blows my mind, and which I have a whole list dedicated for the soul clan and hypnotherapists like that too.
Mm-hmm.
What blows my mind is that it didn't matter their cultural background or belief system.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That
they all described it the same.
People who were Buddhist, people who were agnostic and atheist would all describe it the same way while they were under deep levels of hypnotherapy without being prodded, guided, or having knowledge of what the other clients have experienced. And I don't know if I'm cutting you off or if you had more to add to that, but
go ahead,
there are on YouTube, there's Dr. Alba Weinman, who
she's fantastic.
she records and posts her client hypnotherapy sessions. And I gotta admit, like, it's slow and they're long and some of it's out there, but when you start like paying attention that people across very diverse backgrounds and cultures are having similar messages, that's when it's like, dude, there's something to this, and it's so weird.
It's everything. Yeah.
Dr. Brian Weiss is another one, just like Michael Newton.
Many Lives, Many Masters is his most famous work.
Yep. Same Soul, Many Bodies, Only Love is Real. Those were all similar case studies, like you said. So these people, they go in to get put under hypnotherapy to deal with what starts out as like maybe PTSD from something, or having trouble losing weight, having trouble quit smoking cigarettes. And you're talking people who've been doing this for decades. Like Delores has like 40 plus years in the game of people that she started with her regression therapy techniques. And she'll even tell you on, like, if you go to YouTube and look up Delores Cannon interviews, she will say, like, it started as people who wanted to quit smoking cigarettes, and then we realized that the deeper we got them, the more these other messages started coming through, messages to humanity, messages to this, from this person's higher self and their soul. And these are things I never believed in before or even had awareness of. But then you have hundreds and thousands of people having the same experiences. And you're like, okay, this is really weird, because some of the stories were past lives, and then some of them were non-human entities and non-human experiences, and they weren't even like incarnating on Earth, but they were having the same descriptions of life on other planets or life in other solar systems, galaxy star systems. And how are you going to have hundreds of thousands of people like make shit up like that?
I know, right?
Without talking to each other or knowing.
Yep.
But then I've had readings done, and those psychics and mediums all say to me, girl, you're from the stars. You are not from here. And it's just like, who says that?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Same.
So, yeah, Only Love is Real. That one's Dr. Brian Weiss. Same Soul, Many Bodies, Dr. Brian Weiss.
Many Lives, Many Masters.
That one is a must have for sure. Like, add that onto your list. Robert Schwartz is another one, another hypnotherapist. I'm listening to his, it's called Your Soul's Plan.
Your Soul's Plan. Yep.
Yeah. So he's right now, Your Soul's Plan is about like you're talking about the planning that happens before you
incarnate. Yep.
On your recent human life, or however that works. 'Cause that's the other thing, is like, what's time and what's real.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's
right. But that's so. Oh my god, that's so. I can geek out on that for like.
Yeah. Well, we could. That's definitely a rabbit hole, and such a fun one to go down. So yes, this idea of past lives and multiple incarnations, which a lot of people don't believe in, but it's pretty hard to, not believe in it when you have multiple, like dozens of hypnotherapists that are having the same types of experiences with their clients. And what's interesting is the level of detail that people talk about these lives. Like, there's no way that they could make that up. And so Delores Cannon, and for anybody listening, like, go check out some of her books. She was incredible. She's no longer living. She's, crossed over. But she did this work with her husband first, and then took on this work out of her own interest for 40 years. And she basically perfected the method for doing these like past life regression interviews. And she's a fantastic resource for past life wisdom that comes through. And she'll tell you too, like, she's like, I'm not a channeler, I'm not a medium, like those aren't, but she knows how to put people under hypnosis. She's just curious. Yeah. She's just curious. If this wasn't real, why would that be something that you pursued for 40 years? Exactly. Fascinating. She was so fascinated because then it created a whole other people who became hypnotherapists to do the same thing. And I want to say, similarly, when you do a guided meditation, that's almost a level of hypnotherapy as well. Oh yeah, you're going to a trance state, and so it's very, very similar. but so those books are the idea of past lives, and why it was a game changer for me to read these types of accounts was, well, first, I'm trained as a scientist, and I needed a nice bridge with other people who are scientists that are having these experiences and then writing about them. And then two, the level of detail that was provided, there's no way that these people could be making it up. And so I needed that at the beginning of my awakening to make me feel less crazy for one thing, and to understand
it's not some weird,
it's not some weird phenomenon.
And Kool-Aid saying it's not just one person's viewpoint. It's literally and with the spread of the internet and YouTube, you can literally go on and watch so many people tell their stories about their experiences. There's this one guy I watch on YouTube. I can only watch him in bits and pieces sometimes, but it's the Moore Show, and it's like Moore, and he does that where he interviews all kinds of different paranormal people, whatever you want to call us, hypnotherapists, mediums, psychics, channelers. There's some people that are a little out there for me, but maybe that's just because I don't fully understand, or I've never grasped some of the stuff that they're talking about yet. Then there's this other guy, oh shoot, I'll have to look him up on my YouTube. He does the most beautiful, he does documentaries, and he self-publishes these near-death experiences.
Cool.
Where he interviews people who have had near-death experiences and then come back with talents, new languages they speak, stuff that he thinks could have been picked up from prior lives, because they talk about once they die, their awareness suddenly shifted from this pigeonhole of a human and only understanding this much and thinking we know everything, to actually the lights turning on and their consciousness being completely aware of the fact that it is all interconnected, like the tissues of the body. And how as above, so below kind of thing.
Exactly. So interesting, the interconnection of everything. For me, it was the understanding that we are something so much bigger than a human life. We are this soul essence that gets to have a say in what we experience based on what we want to learn, how we want to grow, how we want to be challenged. So it's about understanding our capacity to come back to unconditional love. So those books on past life regression, that was why it really spoke to me, because I was a churchgoer for a long time. I grew up Catholic, and I just remember sitting there in church and thinking, this is not how it works. For some reason, I was probably 7 years old. This isn't how it works. And then I got to this point where I started waking up, and I found these resources, and it was like a light bulb turned on, and I remembered that's how it works. We get to choose this. We work with a team where we get to choose what we're going to learn, what we're going to experience, who is going to work with us because they love us so much. They want to help us. Who's going to be up for it?
Yeah, exactly. Who signed up for the task to be the one to hurt you for your own good,
or love you,
or love, sorry,
and so that's
about the negative.
And that's why, bridging into this idea of soulmates, right? Not this idea, this thing of soulmates. That's why you recognize somebody in life, you recognize their energy, and God, I feel like I know you. Well, freaking A, you do, right? At the soul level, you've probably been working together for lifetimes, and we plant ourselves in each other's lives at different times to help wake each other up and to spur growth at key moments, and to move through life for big lessons, big learning, whether that feels amazing or whether it's tragic, right? There's learning all around. So those books really those cracked my heart wide open.
There's one guy on YouTube, Dr. Hans Willem, or Hans.
Ooh, that sounds familiar.
Wilhelm. He's
I told you you'd have resources that I didn't.
Yeah, dude. What I love about Hans Willem, I don't even know if he's doctor or not. He takes all the concepts and basically dumbs them down to little 10-minute videos where he's literally drawing on a whiteboard illustrating the process. So he'll talk about like how forgiveness works, and he'll draw the arrows, and then this is this, and this is the auric field. This is the Amazing Earth School is like that one. I send that to anybody who's starting to kind of wake up and they're like trying to understand why
I want you to send that to me.
Oh, okay, I will. Because it's like, it's literally, he talks about the amnesia process of when you incarnate to Earth, because Earth is so dense and we can't come into this world remembering everything because it would be too much.
And we wouldn't learn.
We wouldn't learn the same way if we knew everything when we're first born. And so that's why it's a slow, gradual, one step at a time kind of thing.
Awesome. So his name is Hans Wilhelm, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's like some European guy with a cool little accent that draws pictures. And he's got 125,000 subscribers, and he just draws these pictures.
That's awesome. So one thing that I did get in the habit of doing was watching high vibe TV programs. So I know that in my own spiritual awakening, I became very sensitive to things with violence or like anything with war or drug use. And like watching that or reading it, it made me like my sensitivity level just went off the charts to that. So I had to stop.
Physically ill. Like so I had to block certain pages on Instagram because they would just only post these videos of people getting hurt. Whether it was their own will or not for them to be stupid and try these things. I physically, as an empath, cannot watch other people get physically hurt. It hurts me. Even when I was a kid in school, if people would get into fights at school, it would make me want to puke. Same here. High, like all of that.
Well, there's all of that energy is being broadcast out, and then as empathic as we are, we get hit with it, and sometimes it can be hard not to absorb it. But so what I did is I found several outlets that were like high vibe programming, right? So one of them that is just a fantastic resource for all types of things high vibe. So it can be spirituality, it can be truth seeking, it can be like health and wellness, is Gaia TV.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
And you probably see ads for it on YouTube or on Instagram or Facebook, but it's $10 a month. And let me tell you, it's totally freaking worth it. Really? There are people that do interviews with healers and truth seekers and people like all these different specialties. You learn so much about how energy works and about what's actually out there. Unique phenomenon. There's also like UFO stuff. There's so much on like extraterrestrial life too, if you're interested in that, which I totally am, by the way. So Gaia TV, I've been a subscriber to that for maybe they'll sponsor us. No, I'm kidding. I've been to a subscriber for that for, I don't know, probably like 9 years now.
Wow.
And even if I'm not watching it regularly, it's still going to a good cause, right? Like putting high vibe programming out there and then making sure that,
encouraging.
So they have and they have documentaries, and they've got their own like fictional movies too, based on different energetic principles. So like Wayne Dyer, he's also transitioned, but he's put out so many books on like vibrational frequency, thinking of the thoughts, that you have and bringing to you what you want. So manifesting. He had a movie that he made called The Shift, which is amazing. Such an amazing movie. So Gaia TV, check that out if you can.
And that's GAIA, I think.
Yeah,
right?
GaiaTV.com. Yeah. And so there's lots of great programs on there.
Yeah, I will say, to add on to that, if you go onto YouTube, there's Mind Valley Academy. Wow. And they will put out similar stuff like that. And they also do like international meetings. And
cool.
So it's kind of like the TED Talks of the spiritual world.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
So they have like motivational speakers that are spiritually rooted. And so it's not just you can go make 6 figures and make $1 million go make arms and milk. It's not like that. It's like
how to be a better human kind of thing.
How to like the one thing that actually attracted me was when I was in my darkest moment and want to slit my wrists and just end it all.
Oh yeah.
Video that changed that I found, not by accident, obviously, was oh my god, Marissa Peer, and it was about, she's like some sort of psychiatrist or psychologist, and she was talking about how she had some of the biggest name clients in the world that were millionaires, billionaires, and they had all the money in the world, but yet they still weren't happy. And she would get into the root of everybody's issue, and her whole thing was like, you are enough, like, and finding that, and finding peace in who I was and being enough in that, and not feeling like because I had external forces telling me all the time I wasn't enough. And so to finally believe to myself, like, first you have to tell your brain, because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's like happening or what you're imagining or actually experiencing. So it's like retraining the brain to that thought process of like, okay, being enough as is, and like loving myself. And if I can't love myself, like, how can I project anybody else or expect anyone else to love and treat me?
Exactly.
So it's Marissa Peer, and then Christy Shelton. She talks about, she's intuitive, where she can talk to somebody and find out where their money blocks came from.
Oh, so that's fantastic.
Spirit would show her like, what happened to you? Okay, what happened to you when you were 8 that caused your belief in money to shift? Who said that to you? Or who said this one thing? And they're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that moment. And so like Spirit will show her these things. And then she talks about raising the vibration to being out of those negative mind frames and getting into love. She calls it like love or above. And so it's like being that high vibrational being of like being here or up, being full of joy, and how different energy, different emotions have different levels on the spectrum of the energy that you carry, down to like guilt and shame, which was my biggest problem. And because I come, and we talked about in the other episodes too, like, well, I come from like the Christian church, where it was amazing for certain things when it came to finding my community and getting recovery in certain areas. But the damage that it caused in other areas always made me feel like I wasn't enough. I was constantly in a state of lack, constantly feeling like this awful person. And I still was always attaching guilt and shame to experiences in my life. And so if I constantly attached all these lower level vibrations, it never felt good when I was praying, because I never felt like it was enough. I never felt like I was ever in a true place of gratitude, because I was the constant reminding that you're a sinner and you're this and you're that, and like feeling oppressed all the time and feeling like, why am I praying if it's somebody else's will? Like passive living. Like I'm not going to go after this, because if it's meant to be, it'll be meant to be, or like whatever, like never even trying. And so I realized that my frame of mind, trying to get out of my dark place, it wasn't working, because I was down here. Here. Please, 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 God, please help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. Which is like, that kept me in victim mode.
Right. That's interesting too, because, as we finalize our notes for how to raise your vibration, this would be a good thing to revisit when we talk about that, because really, like, you cannot change your outer reality until you come to terms with your inner reality and rewrite that. So that's fascinating. And then that comes full circle too to those first books that we talked about how your mindset really affects the way you're able to thrive.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to shit on, like, I'm not trying to shit on anybody's belief system at all. This is just
definitely
this is my experience. And I am the most like non-judgmental, like whatever works for you. And I say that because I will always bring it back to, we are souls having a human experience. And some of these human experiences, part of your soul journey is being in the Catholic Church, in the Christian Church, being Muslim, being whatever label, because we always go back to that, about the labels, but take it a step up. You're a soul having a human experience. This is just part of the ingredients to your masterpiece journey, your life. And everybody's going to be different. Everyone's lenses, this is just one little person's experience.
I tell people A lot. There are many paths to the same destination, and there are so many times that we need contrast of different experiences in order to see our way through or to learn with potency, right? So many paths to the same destination. So it doesn't serve us to judge anybody about where they are in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really excellent point. I do have another book that I recommend to a lot of clients as they're starting out on trying to understand how energy works and what that means for them in their own mindset. Gabrielle Bernstein, she's a pretty well-known author. She's put out a number of books, but the one that I recommend to a lot of clients is The Universe Has Your Back, and it's all about transforming fear to faith, like going from this fear vibration and turning that into love. And this book it's really well written in small chunks with lots of affirmations and in helping you to understand that it doesn't serve you to be afraid or to have fear about what you don't have or where you aren't yet in your life, and then to
fears
move
of the future, anxieties of the future,
or I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough, or anything, right? She talks a lot about how do you move out of that to a vibration of love, and when you do, how does that transform your life? So it's basically like a how-to book. So The Universe Has Your Back, transforming fear to faith. And then she has several follow-up
stuff
books
on YouTube also.
Yeah, she does tons of free content. She's a really big proponent of meditation and mindfulness and affirmation, spoken word. It's like that's millennia old, like prescription for change, like for commanding your energy. So the I am statements, like I am healthy, I am abundant, I am a spirit having a human experience. Like those are very powerful statements. And she talks about what it means to actually pull that into your awareness and really start to integrate that into your consciousness. And then she has a follow-up book called The Judgment Detox, which is really great for what you were just talking about how you aren't enough. So that one's all about moving through this idea that, other people's opinions don't mean jack shit, right? It's about you and where you are and how you step into and stretch into your skin as a being, having this experience and pursuing happiness, right? And success. So
here it is. Judgment Detox. I see it.
Yeah, those are really great books
that hold you back. Yep.
Yep. So you're probably getting a sense as you listen that a lot of this has to do with what you choose to think and where you choose to direct your energy. And remember, thoughts and feelings are energy. So whatever you decide to give your energy to, that's what's going to manifest as your reality. So taking ownership and responsibility for where you're placing your intention and your worries. I
am reminded too of the verse in the Bible that says, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when you hear people that are constantly negative and constantly like things are going bad and things are like, they're like negative self-talk, like I don't allow my kids to negative self-talk themselves. Because that's not what you want inside of you. You don't want constant criticism and judgment. And I have to be more mindful of this as well, like being careful of how I speak to my children, because I don't want to become a critical voice in their head later on in life. Because if you're an unhealthy adult that you don't know, your thought process is not, if it's not healthy, sometimes you don't even know it, because like the people you surround yourself with, they're constantly talking or gossiping or talking about garbage stuff or talking about stuff that just doesn't matter, very surface and superficial, like,
or just negative.
Super negative. I hate, don't look forward to Monday, like it's bullshit like that aren't even happy that they woke up today. Like,
I know, you get to be alive and breathing, come on, right? And again, so this is even more segue into when we do the episode on how to raise your vibration.
I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do that, and why it's really important. If you want to make any kind of real headway or progress in your spiritual journey, you really got to start to be mindful of those things that hold your energy in the lower frequencies, and then what catapults you up to the higher frequencies. One more book that I have that was helpful for me in learning, like we keep using the word vibration and frequency. And so there's a book called Frequency, The Power of Personal Vibration, by Penny Pierce.
I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's good. She's written a couple books, including one on how to develop your intuition. And
I was just going to add a book for that
on doing that
topic. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are tons of books out there about frequency and
frequency.
Vibration. Yeah, but this book, Frequency, The Power of Personal Vibration, she goes through the physics of it all, and then she talks in a very easy to digest way why this is important for you to understand about yourself. Like, the vibration you put out is the vibration that you magnetize to yourself. So being really aware of how you're vibrating and how frequency actually works is really important as you start to wake up and start wondering, why do these things happen? Or, wow, why do I feel really weird? Or you just start to understand energy a lot more. And everything in the universe or multiverse, however you want to talk about it, is about frequency. So this is the language with which how the universe works. So the better you can understand that language, the easier you'll walk through your spiritual awakening or your spiritual path. And I totally interrupted you. So what were you going to say?
No, that's okay. No, that's totally fine. I was going to add on, there is an author. I found her on YouTube, and her name is Lisa Kay. I saw her being interviewed on the Moore Show, and she talks about intuition on demand. And it's all about how to use your intuition, develop it, and use it to ask it yes or no questions, or to ask it, which way should I go today? And little things all the way up to big decisions, but how her intuition has saved her life. And she's very straight up to the point. It's not a whole bunch of fluff and woo woo and which I love Gabby Bernstein, but sometimes it's a little too sugary for me.
It's a little fluffy, yeah. But for people just starting out,
if you're just starting out and you need somebody that's very positive and easy to listen to, totally. But for me, I'm a little more grittier and just get to the point. That might be the Taurus in me of just dude, spit it out. You can spit it out already. Yeah. The Taurian.
Yes.
So Lisa Kay, I know. It's me. But it's good. It's good in some ways. It means I'm determined and I'll put my
totally. So she gets right to the point is what you're saying. It makes it a little bit easier.
That's the point I'm trying to make,
Yep. Well, and along that lines, so that's about developing your intuition. But for people whose intuition, they're really, just starting to get a taste of it and are really wishy-washy on it, there are a couple of books by Pam Grout called E Squared and E Cubed. And she very simply takes you through energy experiments, right? So you can understand.
Nice. Do it yourself energy experiments. Yeah. That prove your thoughts, create your reality. That could be a fun one to do. Challenge.
Totally. Yep. So there's two books. There's E Squared and E Cubed. And so E Cubed is just a continuation because E Squared was so popular. And really, it's a very simple way to test the universe.
544 reviews.
Yeah. I have these on my bookshelf because it's fun to revisit them and just say, okay, universe, if this is how energy works, you got to show me 3 green trucks over the next 3 days. How many green trucks do you think you're going to see? Well, you challenge the universe to show you.
The way that Spirit talks to me, I would see those 3 green trucks at the same stoplight.
I know. So,
but that's one of my tests is I always say, blow my mind, or surprise me today, blow my mind, blow my mind. And
these books teach you how to set those experiments up. And she also provides you a way to document that whole journey for yourself. So she has you keep a journal and date when you're going to do these things, set your time frame, and then you take notes based on what you observe. So it's you're doing science experiments, right?
That
but
sounds
with
amazing.
Energy.
Yeah. That
it's totally
I want to
fun.
do that with you or with people who I don't know. I think this should be a fun group project.
Yeah, a group project.
A group project.
Yeah, totally. So I think, I have tons of resources, and I think what we have done. Do you have anything else you want to add?
That's pretty much what those couple of books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean,
those were like the most important things that like helped me. Anything by Jenniffer Weigel, just because it was easy to listen to, and when you can just like listen to somebody talk like a podcaster or radio host, that's just like good sound all the way. There are probably some.
Ooh, my books just fell off the table.
By themselves?
Yay, Spirit. Yes, they did.
To what page?
Oh, well, they're all closed.
Oh, they're closed.
But it's funny.
Yeah, there's some other podcasts and stuff that I have listened to. Some of them, I don't know. That's probably
well, maybe as we move forward with our episodes, if we hit on things that are particularly interesting, we can just mention them for people, maybe specific topics or whatnot. There is,
and I think also what we can do, because we don't have a web page set up for Souls and Stardust yet, but we do have the private Facebook group, Souls and Stardust, the podcast. So it is a closed off group, so you do need to be approved to get in. But what we can do maybe is create a resource thread.
A list.
We can drop in our links for the books that we're talking about, or maybe the YouTube channels. If anyone's interested in that, that probably wouldn't.
I think that's a great idea. Usually people include that kind of stuff in the podcast notes. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah. I'm sure
we're learning.
We're totally learning.
Podcast life.
There's going to be ways to spread the information. One book or like one author that I would suggest too is the Abraham Hicks, Esther, who's channeled by Esther Hicks. Yeah,
which that took me a while to understand what was going on.
Yeah, it did. So it's not for beginners. So if you want to start with that, she channels an entity called Abraham, which is a collective of soul energy that is trying to guide humanity through understanding how their energy works to manifest their reality. So if you did want to start reading on the Esther Hicks stuff, I mean, aside from watching her on YouTube, it's fascinating conversation, but it is quite dense and she speaks very quickly. But you can read the book Ask and It Is Given, and that's a nice introduction into the law of attraction. Or there is another book, and I'm just trying to find it here. It's called The Law of Attraction, The Basic Teachings of Abraham, and that is written by Esther and her husband, Jerry Hicks, who has now transitioned. Okay. But those are a great place to start in, well, I wouldn't even say to start, right? Like if you're going to dive in, that's diving deep into the ocean, kind of getting into how energy works and how you use it to manifest. Yeah, because part of it is, like I said, back to that infinite potential. Part of it is believing that this stuff is possible in the first place. Because if you go in closed-minded and you go in thinking everything I already know is the absolute truth and you cannot add to my knowledge, then everything else you read after that, you're going to reject it subconsciously. And you're not going to be open. But if you go in with an open mind and an open heart and you say, okay, this world is possible, this life is possible, these concepts are available to me, then you can watch how the magic can happen and how the synchronicities happen, how the signs happen, how you get messages that come through to you all day, every day from multiple ways. And you start having a shift in your perspective. And what you see is now you can't just look out and take things at face value anymore. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Souls and Stardust. Connect with us on Instagram at Gratitude Maven and at Your Intuitive Friend. Until next time, stay
magical.